The night of my college graduation changed everything in my life. Little did I know I was about to break up with my boyfriend of 5 years, come out to my father as a lesbian, and move clear across the country to Berkeley to explore my sexuality. So it was June 1999. I had just graduated from college, and my boyfriend, Andrew, said, "Frankie, I'm not able to make it, but you should go ahead. Go and be with your friends, celebrate." Well, when I got to the party, I was approached by a woman named Nicole, and she had the biggest, warmest smile and a ton of confidence. And she said, "You're Frankie, right?" And I said, "Yeah," and I smiled right back at her. And she said, "Well, since you're about to move across the country, I'm gonna take a risk, and I'm gonna tell you a secret. I've had the biggest crush on you since freshman year." Say what? I had never been approached by a guy like that before, and I'd never met Nicole or even had a conversation with her before that night. We flirted all night long, and I couldn't believe what I was feeling. I was surprised, I was attracted, I was flattered, and I so appreciated her bold move. And yes, I spent the night with her. The next morning I woke up, and I had this feeling like something really big had just changed inside of me. I thought I liked men, but I just cheated on my boyfriend with a woman. I was excited and euphoric, and at the same time, I was so perplexed by my sudden change in sexual desire. That's what I want to speak to you about today, the switch that I had made, that abrupt yet meaningful change in my sexual attraction. It turns out there's a name for that. It's called sexual fluidity. Sexual fluidity is the concept that your attraction is less about who you're attracted to overall and more about who you're attracted to at a given time. Let me say that again. It's about who you're attracted to at a given time. Sexual fluidity means that a person's erotic responsiveness may change, but it doesn't mean that it will change. You know, have you ever experienced someone who seems to contradict the label that they were given? Like a lesbian who ends up getting involved with a man, or a straight woman who ends up having a long-term relationship with another woman. These are examples of sexual fluidity. I'm a psychologist and a lesbian matchmaker who is also married to a woman. And we have 2 awesome kids. And no, it's not Nicole. And I can tell you that sexuality is so much more complex than we once thought. In order to understand a human's potential for sexual fluidity, we must look back at the past. One of the reasons why sexual fluidity is so perplexing is because it contradicts what we've been told, that sexuality develops early and is consistent over time. Or we may have been told by our faith-based families that being anything other than straight is a sin and not an option. Until now, we haven't even had a word that describes this concept. The idea of sexual fluidity is a contradiction to the gay rights movement and position that we were born this way. But is it the gay rights movement about being born this way, or is it about equal rights no matter who you love? So let's go back to my time with Nicole. It was the end of the summer, and I was ready to tell my dad my secret. "Dad, I need to tell you something. I've been dating a woman, and we've been together for a few months now." "Really, Frankie? But you're so beautiful and feminine, and you have such long, beautiful hair." "I know you can't help it, and I'm gonna love you no matter what, but it's like a disease, like you have a sickness." I know my dad cared about me, and I know that he was worried that my life would be harder because I had this sickness. Throughout the years, I've had clients come to me and say that they feel strange and they feel different, like there's something wrong with them. They too felt like they thought that they were straight, and then all of a sudden, they're finding themselves attracted to somebody of the same gender. Or it's like the flip, where somebody is queer and all of a sudden they're finding themselves attracted to the opposite gender. It can happen both ways, and it can happen at any time. So I'd like to propose that instead of us saying that we're born this way with a fixed sexual orientation, let's instead say that we're born this way with the potential for sexual fluidity that frees us to follow our desires and make different choices over time. Let's acknowledge that humans are born to love throughout a spectrum. In 1997, Ellen's coming out episode was revolutionary. It was such a big deal that it actually was banned in certain parts of the country. And today, millennials and Generation Z folks, they get so much exposure thanks to shows like Glee, Orange is the New Black, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and Will and Grace. A range of sexual expression is so normal to them. There's no more shock value to them. They just get it. They get that human nature has sexual fluidity, unlike baby boomers and Generation Xers like me. I have a bisexual friend who's the proud mom of a teen trans boy. We'll call him Matt. Like most parents, she likes to follow along with her son's love life. Well, one day, Matt's friend came over to the house before Matt actually came home from school, and he was talking to Matt's mom. And he said, hey, there's a girl in class that likes Matt. And she also liked Matt when Matt was Michelle before she became a guy. And then my friend said, well, does the girl consider herself queer, straight, bi? Matt's friend said, I don't know. She never came out or anything. Does she have to be anything? I've been asked that question a lot. Why do we need to label people? Especially when I was hired to be the relationship and dating coach on MTV's first ever sexually fluid dating game show. Society has a love-hate relationship with labels. They create a sense of inclusiveness and understanding, but at the same time, they box us in and they constrict us. And we're living in a time where there's a heightened sensitivity around labels. Labels can be stressful. They even stress me out. I'm not perfect, and sometimes I feel like I'm walking into a minefield when I'm talking to clients in my community. I'm afraid that I might accidentally say the wrong thing. I do this for a living, and I still get it wrong. Who knows? I might change my label. I might instead call myself an LGBTQ plus matchmaker or a queer matchmaker. Let's talk briefly about pronouns. When they, them pronouns first started being used in 2015, did you just hear me say that? 2015, that's 5 years ago. Can you believe that? Well, I can't tell you how many times I got it wrong. Somebody would tell me that they go by they, them pronouns, and I would accidentally say he, she. Come on, it's probably happened to you too, right? I mean, we definitely still have work to do there, but I was so embarrassed. I was ashamed. I felt like if I wasn't getting this, who's gonna get this? And I don't ever want somebody to feel like I didn't care. But we've gotta keep talking, even when the conversations get really hard, in order to better understand each other. I'm part of the queer community, and if I'm anxious about mislabeling, I can only imagine how folks in the straight community must be feeling right now. Damn uncomfortable. So I want to play a little true or false and bust some myths around sexual labels. So myth number 1, fluid is the same as the terms bisexual and pansexual. Any guesses? Well, that's false. Sexual fluidity refers to someone who can move across an arc of sexual attraction over time. The term bisexual refers to someone who is attracted to more than one gender. And pansexual is a more recent label where someone is attracted to another person regardless of their gender. Okay, if you're getting dizzy right now trying to keep up with all these labels, know this: you can be more than one at the same time, and many of them overlap. Your sexuality is truly up to you. You get to decide. You get to decide what's best for you. And the switch can happen at any time. Okay, next myth. True or false? Folks who identify as bisexual, pansexual, or fluid are into group sex, are kinky, and incapable of monogamy. Is that true or false? False. It's an outdated belief that if you're anything other than straight, it's a sickness. Come on, people are just into who they're into. And by the way, we all know there are plenty of straight people who are kinky or incapable of monogamy. I mean, just look at Billions on Showtime. There are straight people who are kinky. There are bisexual people who are plain vanilla. Being queer doesn't mean that I'm a nymphomaniac. Maybe since I'm tattooed and I have a partially shaved head and I've got some muscles, people feel like they can make assumptions about my sexuality. I can't tell you how many times I've been invited to join a couple sexually. I've never been into that. I've never been a part of any swingers groups or threesomes, and yet I get these requests so often. And why? Just because I look the way that I do? It doesn't even surprise me anymore. Okay, let's bust that myth for sure. On to the next. True or false? The term sexually fluid may make the term bisexual outdated. True or false? Well, I have to say, maybe? I can't predict the future, but here's why I think fluid is becoming the new term for bisexual. Teens are using the term sexually fluid or fluid as a possible replacement for the term bisexual. They don't even say bi, they just say fluid. We all know things are in flux right now. There's a lot of cultural shifts happening. And like so many movements, there's conflict and confusion while a greater collective understanding is being created. Sexual fluidity is a label of inclusiveness, understanding, and liberation. The night of my college graduation, I didn't know I was going to meet Nicole and fall in love. I didn't know I was going to have a big secret to tell my dad. And I didn't know my life was going to change completely overnight. I wasn't expecting this switch. But when it happened, I had a choice. I could either be scared and run, or I could stay and be open. And I leaned into it. And I discovered who I am. I am sexually fluid. And I know who makes me happy at any given time. I wish you all the same happiness. Thank you.